Good evening and welcome to a YouTube exclusive for the Rosenberg Report, and we're going to be reporting on it on All Israel News because this is, for us, this is a big story. One of our own, the senior producer for the Rosenberg Report, based in New York City, an Israeli citizen who's also a senior correspondent for All Israel News and All Arab News, got a very interesting call about 10 days ago or so. And she got drafted, basically called up, but not to military duty, but to become a spokesman for the Prime Minister of Israel. Tal Heinrich, great to see you. You're at Israel's Pentagon, the Kiryat. Welcome to the Rosenberg Report. This is a totally different situation.
Joel, I'm so relieved to see you and know that you and your family are safe. That's first and foremost. I'm not used to coming here to Israel from New York and not meeting you face to face.
I know.
But I'm here and I'm very grateful that I get to do my part as other civilians are doing their part, as well as part of the national effort to win this war and defeat Hamas. What happened October 7th, that massacre, is so brutal and so despicable. And we must administer justice.
Absolutely. Look, I'm so glad you're in that position, though we've lost you in a key role in two of our media operations. But let's just start with how this happened for you getting really drafted into this role. You were living in New York City, and you got a call on Saturday, October 7th. What happened and what got set in motion to put you here in Israel on an emergency basis?
So people are aware of my work, and I guess they're aware of my English skills. And as you know, part of what we're doing here is sending Israel's message and Israel's cry to the entire world. It is very important what we're doing here. So Saturday, I think it was actually between Friday and Saturday when everything has taken place, started to, we heard about the missile fired towards Israel.
Saturday here, but it was late at night for you guys in New York. That's true.
Exactly. And then we heard a few hours later about that music festival in the South with over 260 dancers who got butchered by these Hamas terrorists. So when more and more reports started to come in, I can tell you that I was in New York City and I was telling my boyfriend, Joel, that it's very hard to breathe. It felt as if I was taking in air, but not enough oxygen came in with every inhale. And then I got called up and I booked the first El Al flight, that's a national airline of Israel, after Shabbat. El Al, they don't fly on Shabbat usually, to come here to the Prime Minister's office, to the National Public Diplomacy Directorate that they have created here for this war. And once I landed, once the El Al flight landed, I took in the air and suddenly the oxygen came in. It is very, very difficult, and you know it, to be Israeli or to be Jewish, for example, or to love Israel so much and be outside of the country, hearing about such atrocities taking place in the Holy Land. You just want to feel like you're doing something. So I am very grateful that they called me up. And I'm very, honored, honestly, to be doing my part as part of this national effort. There are so many great initiatives and so many personal stories of bravery that we're hearing about with every hour that passes. And I think this is the true spirit of this nation, and this is what's going to take us to the next stage, which will be a victory.
Well, I'm grateful as well that you were called up and that the Prime Minister and his team knew you and knew your work that you're doing with us and the work you'd done previously as an anchor for an Israeli television network and as a correspondent for other networks over the time. And I think you're in a really important position. And you're right. I think the worst thing as an Israeli right now is to feel like you didn't have some role, but you do. So let's talk about that role. There is not just an offensive against us militarily from Hamas. There is a second front, and I'm not even talking about Hezbollah in Lebanon yet. It's the media front. I was at President Herzog's briefing for the international press on Thursday, and I have to tell you, I was just astonished to watch an anchor for CNN accuse Israel of being engaged in war crimes in Gaza, and watching President Herzog, as experienced a diplomat and as calm and even-keeled person as I happen to know, even low-key, get angry. I mean, he was angry. He's like, "Are you serious? You're accusing us of war crimes now?" So getting information out that's accurate to reporters that are willing to listen is critical. Describe what you're actually doing now that you're sort of up and running. I think this is your day 9 so far.
It is my day 9. It's day 10 of the war. And as you know, 10 days is a huge time frame for a news cycle. And I think people by this moment tend to forget what started this all. We didn't want this war. Israel didn't start this war. It was forced upon us with the worst ISIS-style atrocities that one could imagine. And this is the story that I'm telling. And what I do here as part of the Prime Minister's office, I debrief international media outlets, and I do it in English. There are other people doing it in other languages as well. I do it every 5 p.m.
You do speak 5 languages, so you could.
Yeah, but my brain is wired right now on English, so I'm doing this right now. So I speak to international media outlets about all the information that I'm getting. If it's from the Prime Minister's office, sometimes some information that we're receiving from the IDF spokesperson unit, and what is important to us that they will report. That is one thing. And then I'm also giving interviews of this kind with different media outlets and answering the tough questions. So in the beginning, Joel, I can tell you that in the first days of this war, the hard questions were about what really transpired. Yeah. Everyone wanted to know, well, what are the real numbers? And the numbers are staggering. We're talking about 1,500 Israeli civilians and soldiers who were killed. Again, 199 families were notified by the IDF as far today, in fact, that their loved ones were abducted by Hamas. These numbers are crazy. 3,500 people injured. I mean, if you compare this and you compare the population size of the United States, and we said it repeatedly in the beginning, this is 10 times 9/11, and it's worse than ISIS. Secretary Austin was here. He said it. He said, "I've seen ISIS, and this is worse than ISIS." So everyone was asking us in the beginning, what really happened? Were there cases of women, beheading of people? Did they really burn families alive? Did they burn houses? So they wanted the very graphic description. Eventually, we also decided to publish some of these very graphic photos.
Right, that was a big decision. Because you were getting pushback that this was fake news, that this was being made up.
Yes, and I hope that all these doubters, unfortunately, got their proof. You know, there are still Holocaust deniers in our world, I'm not expecting much of some of these people out there. But right now, Joel, when we are speaking, this is day 10 of this war, and the news cycle has somewhat changed. So the questions that I'm receiving are more about the pictures coming out of Gaza. And, questions about proportionality of the IDF's response and so on, and humanitarian aid to Gaza and so on. And what I tell them is what you know, is that we don't want any civilian casualties. We don't want any Palestinian civilians in harm's way. And the IDF, we're calling on them to evacuate from the north of the Gaza Strip. And the IDF has designated specific routes for them to evacuate to the south where humanitarian aid is available. But as you know, Hamas are terrorist savages, and they're setting up roadblocks. They're telling on their population in the Gaza Strip, the ones that they rule since 2007, to stay put. They are the ones putting civilians in harm's way.
It's so demonic. I mean, it's hard to come up with the words of how evil this is. Hamas's policy is to slaughter civilians, innocent civilians, obviously Jews, but they want Palestinians to die. That's why they're telling them to stay in place when Israel's telling them, no, for your own sake, move south, get out of Gaza City, get out of the north, because that, of course, is where the main Hamas infrastructure, military terror infrastructure is. But as you say, blocking roads, blocking exit strategies. This is sick. This is supposedly their own people, and yet they want them to be in harm's way because they want pictures of dead Palestinians to be on the front page of the New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, Al Jazeera.
And they want us to be asked these questions. So, you know, the IDF is giving an advance notice to the civilian population in Gaza by spreading leaflets, thousands of leaflets, by, you know, sending out the message on different media channels, on social media, by conducting phone calls, and so on. So the civilian population in Gaza, they know that they should evacuate. I can also tell you one interesting data that I received today from the IDF spokesperson. They told me that in the northern Gaza Strip, there are 20 Palestinian hospitals. Out of these 20, 6 hospitals decided to independently evacuate.
Oh.
What happened to the other 14? You can assume, I can assume. This is so sad. And you know who didn't get any kind of prior notice? Well, the Israeli communities down south, the ones that were butchered by these Hamas terrorists. And Israel, by the way, has evacuated its own population, over 80,000 Israeli civilians. That's including up north. That's about 28 communities up north, because there's also some kind of flare-ups and high alert on the northern border with Lebanon and Hezbollah. So over 80,000 Israeli civilians were evacuated. And I can tell you that some of the civilian effort underway is very, very heartwarming, because you have some families in central Israel who are hosting families from the south. And that is part of the fighting spirit that we see not only on the front lines, but also as part of the home front. That is very heartwarming indeed.
It is. I was just with one of our cameramen from TBN at 2 border communities, Israeli border communities on the Gaza border just yesterday, in Sderot and in Ofakim. In Ofakim, we happened to be invited to go inside the very house where that beautiful, extraordinary Israeli couple were held for 19, almost 20 hours by 5 Hamas terrorists. But the mom just kept talking to them, feeding them cookies, coffee, trying to, you know, keep them calm and buy time for Israeli special forces to storm in and kill them, which is exactly what happened. It's one of the few real success stories. And the son told us the story, and he said, I asked him, why do you think these particular terrorists, who were killing everybody in sight, why did they wait 19 hours before doing something? I mean, thank God they didn't. And he said, I can only think of it as a miracle. God literally came down from heaven to save my parents. But we're not seeing a lot of success stories right now.
There are stories of bravery, and they're very, very uplifting.
Bravery, yes, right, but rescue, I meant.
Right, no, you're right. And we should mention, you know, Israel is a small country, and you just told one story right now, but everyone in this country knows a story or knows a person who was either abducted by Hamas terrorists, killed or injured, someone who's serving, someone who got called up as part of the reserve service. I told you about my El Al flight coming in, but what amazes me is the stories of Israelis, other Israelis who live abroad, and they rushed in. They're trying to get on flights to make it into the country and serve. The prime minister, in fact, he met with one of them when he went to visit the Southern Brigade. And he met with one soldier who told him a story that he was on the way to Australia, where he lives. He had some layover in Singapore when he heard about the October 7th massacre, and he rushed in and he managed to get a flight, and now he's on the front lines. And that is, again, it's one story.
Amazing.
Today I saw a picture, and I'll send you that picture, of an El Al flight from Thailand, where the captain decided to take in more people than actual seats on the aircraft, because so many young Israelis wanted to come back home from Thailand and join the national effort. So these kind of stories are the ones that are...
It is. Yeah, I think that is Israelis, the Israeli spirit coming together. I mean, honestly, Hamas has accomplished in 1 week or 10 days what no Israeli could do all year, and it's unified the country. Former Defense Minister Benny Gantz joining an emergency national unity government. I think it's really encouraging that Netanyahu offered it. I think it's very encouraging that Gantz accepted it. I hope that others who are in the opposition will do it as well. But I want to go back to this point about how Israel is taking the measures to help innocent Palestinian civilians to move south. The Prime Minister told us early on Friday morning that there was going to be 24 hours. I want to tell you how encouraged I am that actually a little bit more time has gone by. I mean, here as you and I talk, it's now Monday night here in Israel. So we've actually had multiple days. I don't know exactly how many, but press reports are saying more than 500,000 Palestinians have moved out. But I think that's not only good in its own right, but it's also a good messaging plan to show some restraint. And of course, it gives our forces time to get ready and make their plans as well. But I'm encouraged by that because I'm bracing, and I'm sure you are. And I think that's why the Prime Minister and his team brought you back, because you're so good at what you do. But the media onslaught against Israel we've seen it starting to rise, and I think it's going to go exponential once the ground invasion begins. How is the Prime Minister's team, you, the others, preparing yourselves for the vitriol and the complete mischaracterization of what's really happening that's about to come like a wave?
So I will repeat a sentence to you that actually Ron Dermer, the Minister of Strategic Affairs, said just a few days ago when he was talking to one of the American outlets. He said that he hopes that the support that Israel receives as a victim of this vicious terrorist attack will be similar in the beginning and at the end, that we received just the same support when we come out victorious out of it, because it is very important. Our moral clarity is similar to the U.S. moral clarity. Both the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Secretary Blinken repeated this exact phrase, that this is the time for moral clarity. And our cause here is the just cause, because we didn't want this war. Hamas dragged us into this war. So anyone asking us about proportionality right now, and you're right, these questions will continue and even intensify as more days pass by. The Prime Minister said it's just the beginning. Right. So here's the answer about proportionality. Proportionality is not tit for tat or anything of this kind. It is doing what it takes to achieve a legitimate military goal. Now, our military goal is a just one. Of course, any kind of war, any kind of,
of the Hamas terror threat. Right,
exactly. And by the way, this is what we're hearing from the families who are mourning right now. They are the ones who are telling us. The Prime Minister met yesterday with some of the families of those who were abducted, and they told us and the nation of Israel, hold your heads up, hold your heads high, and do what needs to be done against Hamas. So to me, this really amazes me that the ones who are aching the most are the ones giving us the most strength right now. This is why we operate. This is what we're doing. And when we come out of this, and we will finish this war on our terms, and we will win it, and we will dismantle Hamas's capabilities, by the end of this, they will lack the motivation to hurt us ever again in the coming decades, as they did. So
the motivation and the mechanics and the capacity. Yeah. Let me ask you one more question. And I know, because you've got a lineup of interviews. I'm so grateful for you and so proud of you. It's interesting that an Israeli Jewish woman with so much media experience would take a job working for an evangelical, both at All Israel News, and then when I said, hey, can I just add something to your repertoire? Would you be my senior producer for this new show I knew a year ago, the Rosenberg Report on TBN, the most watched Christian television network in the United States? And you didn't hesitate. We'll talk about what's the Prime Minister's message, your message, the government's message to the Christian community. How can we stand with Israel? Because I want to just tell you you were telling me stories, one more very positive story. So the mother of one of our dear friends here in Israel, she's an evangelical, she's married to an Israeli, and the mom is an evangelical. The mom got on an El Al flight last night, packed with like 7 suitcases filled with humanitarian relief supplies and other things that people had asked her to bring. She was the only American passport holder on the entire El Al flight. And the people at El Al were like, why are you going to Israel? Like, have you not watched the news? I mean, like, and she's like, I'm an evangelical. I love Israel. My daughter's there. My son-in-law's there. I'm there to help. They're like, you might not be able to get back out for a while. They're like, I don't care. I'm coming to help. That is also the spirit, and it's why we need to keep communicating out to the Christian community, because there's a depth of love. There's a New York Times story today about evangelical love for Israel. I commend it to you and the Prime Minister. I'm quoted in it and others. But what is the message? What should Christians be hearing from the Prime Minister and from the entire Israeli government?
So first, I know that evangelical supporters of the Jewish state, the state of Israel, are aching just like us. Yes. And your help and prayers and everything that you're doing is being felt here, and it's being felt on the ground. The spiritual help, if it's with donations, everything is being greatly appreciated here. It's heartwarming, it's trickling down, we are receiving it here, and it's strengthening us. So we are very, very thankful for that. And, Jewish communities, evangelical communities overseas are also part of that. It is very important that you keep telling the story of what had happened here, and help us convey this message to the world. And any kind of support is really greatly, greatly appreciated. It is so important, and it's trickling down. Everyone is receiving it. Know that if you're sitting there in the U.S. watching us in one of the communities, what you're doing matters.
Thank you. Tal, thank you so much. As much as we have missed all your great work, all your great reporting, your producing, we're adjusting because we know you should be where you are. You're serving the country. You're serving an important cause. Really, the worst war, the biggest devastation of civilians, really since the Holocaust, certainly since the first, War of Independence. So, God bless you. We are praying for you. Thank you. You've already set up an interview the other night for the Rosenberg Report with Ambassador Mark Regev, former chief spokesman for Netanyahu, and of course the former ambassador to Great Britain. So any other people you have that you think ought to be on the program or in All Israel News, don't hesitate, and let us know how we can support you. And thank you for what you're doing to get the truth out all over all over the world. We're grateful.
Thank you so much, Joel.
This is Joel Rosenberg in Jerusalem for All Israel News and the Rosenberg Report, getting an opportunity for the first time, or at least at this length, to talk with my dear friend Tal Heinrich, as she's become a new spokeswoman for the Prime Minister of Israel. From Jerusalem, good night.